Hello everybody and welcome back to the Retro Recall. I hope you're doing awesome. So today we're going to do something a little different, and it's based on the last video I just released, the E-Waste Series 2 video, where this particular PC was featured. Now the reason I'm going to be focusing on this particular PC is because of the comments section, and again this is because of the interaction that we are having on this channel, and I love it. I bring this to everybody to specifically talk about these PCs and share your memories, share your stories, tell me all about the different things that you've done on these particular computers. So I first off want to say I apologize for the video quality of the last one. I already talked about that, but again, we'll strive to make that perfect going forward. So again, thank you for your patience and your support throughout this journey. So this particular computer is the one that had the Pentium II processor, the 2D, I believe it was the Matrox 2D video card, as well as the Diamond Monster 3DFX card. And everybody was commenting on it or saying, oh my goodness, good find. I can't believe you got that for free. This was my dream PC that I would have built for my Windows 98 machine. You know, all those good things. So I figured what we would do is a restoration video. And I haven't done one of those in a little bit. I've been focusing on some other projects. We'll completely take this PC apart, dig into the actual system itself, take everything out, inspect everything, clean everything, and essentially put it all back together. And we may even upgrade it a little bit. We may put a CD burner in it, something very similar to what we have in the system already. And yeah, I mean, basically test it all out and maybe install the operating system on it, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, let's just get all situated on the bench here and get ready to start dismantling this beautiful Pentium II custom PC. Okay, we're all back and all set up, and we're going to go ahead and start dismantling this computer. So I'm going to take the side panel off here. And as you can see, this was the actual computer that I forgot about to mention, that it's missing the power supply that's in this. And I will say that I was mistaken originally when I had mentioned that I was under the impression that this had a custom power supply, when in fact it does not. So yeah, so what we're going to do is just start taking things out right now for the sake of the dismantling, but we'll have no issues putting in a standard ATX power supply in that area. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just remove the ribbon cables first. I mean, people have different ways of removing components and what ways they want to, you know, what series in order they want to go ahead and do that. For me, I just like to go ahead and just remove the cables first, just because I tend to see that they're in the way. And I mean, the cables look pretty good. I mean, we had no issues powering the system up and accessing the hard drive, etc. So when we go ahead and restore this, I may have some new cables that we could use, but again, barring that, we may just end up using the ones that are here. So here's the floppy drive. We'll go ahead and just remove that as well. All right, let's go ahead now and start removing the drives. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just start with the floppy drive. Now, I mean, for some of my restoration videos I've done in the past and other restorations I've done, I don't always just remove these drives, leave them in for what we're trying to accomplish here. But I think it'll be good just to kind of give a once-over of the drives, see, make sure there's nothing that's going to cause any issues, and yeah, go from there. So we have a Quantum Fireball, and I believe this was the 12 gig hard drive that was in here. But again, we'll go ahead and pop it in there when it comes time, and we can make sure that's what it was. All right, I'm going to take the screws off on the CD-ROM drive as well. This is the Acer 36-speed CD-ROM drive. Now, we will probably put in a burner as well in this computer, again, just because we have them, so we may as well use them as well. Okay, so I'm going to take the screws off on the back here. Again, nothing fancy, just 3 screws, 3 standard screws in the back that hold on this other side of the case here. And probably a good idea to remove it anyway. Okay, let's remove that side of the panel. There we are. Perfect. Try to take it out without dumping it everywhere. Okay, we only have 1 screw over here, and the 1 screw is the is for the CD-ROM drive. So let's go ahead and remove that. Okay. And that's out as well. And then we can just remove the floppy drive there. So there we are. We have the floppy drive, and I believe it's just your standard, yeah, the Panasonic. These were pretty common. I have some new ones, actually, new old stock ones. But it's a good thing we're removing it just to clean off some of that dirt that you see on there. So we'll do that as part of the cleanup as we go through all the components. All right, and we have the hard drive out, and we'll go ahead and just, I forgot 1 screw on the CD-ROM drive. And here we just have a standard Acer. Now, Acer came with different components, right? So Acer had A-Open, Acer peripherals, Acer. They had several different brands that eventually they just moved these off to their peripheral division, sorry. And yeah, so this was manufactured in September of 1998, and this is the 36-speed CD-ROM drive. It looks to be in pretty decent shape for what it is. Probably not heavily used, but it would be good to add a burner here as well. Okay, so here's the motherboard in all its glory, and yeah, so we'll start taking out the card one by one. It seems I didn't put the screw back in this one, but let's go ahead and take it out. And this is the the Matrox card. Now, it says G2 Plus on this particular card. Someone had commented below indicating that it was a G200. So just food for thought on that. Again, I don't have any markings on that, but I imagine that that's what is in the system. And overall, it is in great shape. It would be cool to get some memory added onto it. I like, whenever I see expansions, I always like to utilize them. But again, for the sake of what we're trying here, it's just the 2D card with 3D capability, which I learned again because of the comments. I went in and looked at some of the information on this card. Again, this wasn't a bad card, and to have in the system, especially with e-waste, it's really good to have. And so the manufacturing date on this particular card, or the date that's on the card, whether it's manufacturing or not, is showing September 29th of 1998. So really, really awesome to see that in the system. So now the star of the show, and I say that because I had not expected to see this card in this system. And this card is the beautiful, but this again is a Diamond Monster 3D 2 PCI, 12 megabyte card. 3DFX is the chipset on it. And again, it looks to be, other than all the caked on dirt, which we're going to go ahead and get cleaned up, but that's what it says right here, Monster 3D 2 PCI, 12 meg. And again, thank you to all my viewers commenting on this, just letting me know exactly what these components are. I mean, I'm very familiar with components, very familiar with the older tech, but when it comes to some niches and some tighter end cards that were harder to get back in the day, I mean, this card would have been expensive, and it's just really great to hear the comments to be able to help along. All right, let's go ahead and put that aside for now because we will be getting that all cleaned up. All right, so we have our Pentium II 450 processor here. Let's pull the fan out, and I believe it's just 2 little, let's just see if it slides right out. No, let's go ahead, and I don't want to do any damage to it here. I believe it's just these 2 clips there. There we are. It's out, and there's our Pentium II 450 processor on the riser card. All right, so we have our motherboard left. Now, I mean, I can go ahead and just take off the motherboard this way. I mean, I probably can. This particular case, the nice thing about that is the back support that holds the motherboard in place can come right out. It just twists right out, and you can have your motherboard separately like that. So let's go ahead and just take out those 2 screws. I say that, but it seems that someone may have stripped this. Let's just go ahead up here and see what happens with this one. Yeah, this one came right out. So one of the things you can do when you have this situation is try to get a screwdriver in behind there, and then that way you can, when it's coming out, there we go, it's coming out now. Yeah, so yeah, oh yeah, that's pretty stripped there. So it looks like it cross-threaded it. So here we are. We have the back support for the beautiful motherboard that we have here. Let's go ahead and just get the case removed for now off the bench, and we will get a good look at this motherboard as well. There we are. So we have the motherboard here on the bench, and so it's the Pentium II board. Now I'm showing that it's MS6119 version 1.1 BX2 is what the model is on this motherboard. Looks like it has the AGP slot, the 4 PCI, 3 ISA, all your joyful RAM that we were able to get one working again. But it's, again, it supports the SD RAM standard. I took that stick out that we had working. There we are. We have that one out. And then we'll just start squeezing these. See if I can get them with my fingers, because they're pretty malleable, actually, which is nice. And yeah, so and just to show you what I'm talking about, see, like, they're not in any sort of, these four, or yeah, three, are not in any sort of removable one where you slide it out into a groove and slide it back in, which is fine. Let's go ahead and just remove these. Let's see if I can use the other tool instead. There we are. Okay. So we have our, I was calling this a backplane in another video, and I do realize a backplane is what you'd use to install SPCs, single board computers. I wasn't meaning it as a backplane. I just called it a backplane because it can be called different things. So I'm just going to put my silicone mat down just for the sake of safety, or keep everything good here. All right, so we have our motherboard here out, which is wonderful. And so, yeah, let's just take a look here at all the different components to make sure we are good to go here. So, yeah, I'm just looking at this. And so it's an award BIOS. We know that. Everything looks good there. I'm just looking at all the capacitors just to see. I'm not exactly sure when the capacitor plague era was, but I'm not seeing any sort of damage here to any of the capacitors. And, I mean, the board behaved just fine when we fired it up. All right. So I think the next step, what we're going to do is, now that we have the board out, I'm going to take the battery out as well. I don't remember if the battery was dead or not, but I'm just going to take it out because we can. All right, let's go ahead and just start to clean the board. That's our next logical step here. So I have these ESD, electronic static discharge brushes. That's all I'm going to use for today to get this kind of cleaned up. You know, these do very well in getting all the dirt and grime out of these, because, I mean, you don't need anything caked on the motherboard for this. And I mean, in an overall condition, all things considered, the board is quite clean. It was the other components seem to be dirtier, and I think that has something to do with where the fan is and everything. And if you noticed a moment ago, before I brushed that, all the different pins here in the AGP slot seem to have dirt in them. And again, probably because of the way the CPU is here. And I also have wipes as well that I use just for cleaning that up. Now, there's different things you can do again as well. I mean, you can take these, you can put water in these, you can hang them up to basically essentially let them drip dry for 24 hours and things like that. I mean, this board is not grimy enough to have to do that. I have other boards that are quite dirty, and when I say quite dirty, I can't say that enough. And these are just alcohol wipes, so I use them when I need to wipe off physical surface mounts and things like that. But I mean, again, this is looking pretty darn good for what it is. Again, I'm just going to go over everything here just to make sure we get it all out. All right, so it seems that we are looking pretty good there. I'm not seeing a lot more dust on here. All the surfaces seem pretty thoroughly clean. Just again, just these are excellent wipes. And I use the alcohol wipes because it dissipates really quickly and it doesn't leave any sort of issues or residue on the board. At least my experience is that. Other people may comment and say, I can't believe we're doing that. Or again, it's the internet. So I expect to have all different variant themes, and that makes the world go round, which I love. And again, I love the interaction. But again, this just works for me. I'm able to use it, and it seems to be just fine. Okay. So we have our motherboard here now, and it seems to have all cleaned out, which is great. I mean, it looks fairly good condition, which is wonderful to see. I know I keep on saying that, but it's just really good to have a board that does that. So everything I'm going to do here, just because we already have it out, I'm going to go ahead and add the contact cleaner. Again, I think it's always a great practice to do that, because then it just has time to work. Because, I mean, there could be some dirt or some grime inside the slots, depending on how the dust got in there and things like that. Again, not knowing exactly what's going on with those two RAM slots. We had the first one working, but banks 2 and 3, or DIM 2 and 3, is having some issues there. So it's just good to get this stuff working in there. And we haven't tried this since I did the original video, so it's very possible that it's working fine now. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and spray the deoxit in here. So there we are. So we have all the different slots all filled with the contact cleaner has been sprayed in them. And so I think we're in a good spot to move forward with our next component. Okay, so we have our 2D card here, our Matrox card. And the back side is a little dirty, but the bottom side, which would have been like this inside the case, is obviously showing just fine. But let's go ahead and just get the brush here and make sure that we get everything cleaned out off this card. So the thing is, when you have dirt and dust inside here on any of these cards, it can cause issues. It just creates a thermal barrier. And yeah, I just want to get that removed. And so I'm going to take a wipe there and get that kind of wiped off as well, just to make sure that we're good. Actually, you know what we'll do is I'm going to go ahead and use just direct alcohol on this, and we'll give it a little bit of a scrub there. And the best thing I ever did was get the alcohol in a spray bottle. So I'm going to go ahead and just clean the guard here as well. And that seems to be doing just fine. Here we are. And yeah, so we have a good looking card here. That I took some of that sticker off with the alcohol. That wasn't intentional, but that's totally fine. Okay, that's it. We have our Matrox 3D card all cleaned up and ready to go back in the system. Let's put this aside, and we will start working on the next card, which is our Voodoo 2 card, our Diamond Monster card. Okay, yeah, that side is pretty darn filthy, but let's go ahead and just focus on this. I'm just going to clean up this as well so we can see the results of our effort. You can see the dirt just coming off of these cards, and hey, why not? Let's just get this all cleaned up and get it looking like a brand new system again. But that's looking pretty good on that side. I'm not seeing any sort of dust on it. What a good looking card, eh? Just I love all the 3D effects stuff. And like I said, I was floored when this popped up inside the system. Look at that, just the dirt and dust coming off of that. That creates a thermal barrier on here for heat dissipation, which is not good for the components at all. Just not scrub the stickers. This helps just get everything kind of cleaned off there. That's the back side of the 3D effects card all cleaned up. And we'll do the I/O shield here as well. Get that all kind of cleaned up. All right, there's our 3D effects card by Diamond, and the Diamond Monster 3D 2 PCI 12 meg card. So yeah, that's all looking pretty darn clean now, which is great. Let's put that aside as well, and then we'll move on to the next component, which will be, well, we have a working stick of RAM here. We may as well just clean it off while we're here. I mean, there's not a lot to do. Actually, what I could do is just, I'm just going to use the isopropyl alcohol here. Just give it a good cleaning. We have the RAM there, which is good, and that will dissipate just fine. That's the known working stick of RAM that we have. I mean, we have many other sticks of RAM that we could use. All right, clean our area. I always like to keep things clean as we go. All right, so let's take the hard drive next. All right, just use the wipe. Let's clean the dirt off of it. I'm not touching the PCB right now. Just going in and cleaning the edges off. I mean, the underside of it seems to be just fine because, again, when it was mounted in the system, it was like this, right? So it didn't seem to be the victim of any sort of the dust, which is great. So that looks all good there. I mean, really great shape system for something that would have been tossed into a bin or whatever condition it was in. Is really nice to see it in good shape as it is. I'm just going to put this aside over here for now. All right. We have our floppy drive, which is come home with a bunch of dust bunnies here. So I'm just using the wipes right away on it just because of the amount of dirt that's on here. And I'm just going to go ahead and just make sure that the eject mechanism, yeah, there we go. I mean, that's working just fine. And there's zero friction there, everybody. Like, sometimes these get gummed up inside and you have to grease the rail and the mechanism and things like that, but that's working just fine. So we'll call that good for now. And that's good. All right, we have our Acer CD-ROM drive here as well. I mean, these are pretty basic components. Some people, based on the, look at that dirt on it though. Based on nostalgia and things like that. Now, I personally had a lot of Acer components back then in my systems, and I didn't have any issues with Acer. I personally liked Acer, and a lot of people, indicated that, I don't like Acer. Acer's junk garbage and things like that, but they may have made some entry-level components, but for sure that they made also some higher-end components, at least in my opinion. All right, so yeah, the rest of the drive looks great. I mean, it hasn't been taken apart. No components I can feel that's going on in there. I mean, you won't know until we power it up and use it and all that good stuff and make sure it reads fine. But yeah, I think pretty reliable drives. I haven't had a lot of drives, CD-ROM drives or otherwise, go down the road of not working, which is really good. All right, so the next part here now is the processor. So here we are. We have the CPU fan itself, and yeah, definitely caked on there pretty good. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take. Let's just see here. Let's get some my cotton swabs here. Get them ready at the ready. There, I can get that off that way. There we go. Yeah, that's gonna require some TLC. We'll get that all cleaned up. And then you can see here as well the fan itself. Get all that gunk out of there. The bearing itself seems pretty good. I don't feel any issues with it, which is good. And I like to use like I said, the cotton swabs to get in tighter areas and get all that dirt kind of removed out of there, which is good. There we are. It's looking really good now. Glad I took off the fan component from the heatsink itself. It just creates a cleaner environment to work in. Well, I think that's looking pretty darn good, which is awesome. Slow and steady wins the race when you're working on this stuff, so it's really good. Let's get all this kind of cleaned up here. I had spilled the alcohol earlier. Just tipped it over. All right, now we have our culprit here. The processor's in here, so I'm not gonna go, to town on this outside of just the fan itself, or the heatsink. Look at that. It's years of dirt just sitting on there. Okay, I'm just gonna use the wipe as well, just to clean off the edges, get kind of some of that remaining surface dirt off. Nothing too fancy. Again, just kind of creates that cleaner environment here. We'll go ahead and just pop that back on there. And I believe it just kind of slides back in the way it was. Keep that wire there. Yeah, I mean, that's what a neat design that is. So look at that. We're back in business. Nice and easy, nice clean. It's great. And I'm just going to take a cotton swab that we have. It's clean with some alcohol and just run along the card edge in here just to make sure that it's nice and clean. I mean, it is, yeah, it's looking pretty good. But I just want to make sure that all the nice gold teeth there are good to go. There's no dirt in there, no residue. So there we go. We have our processor all cleaned up. Yeah, so we're in a better place now with everything. We have the motherboard all clean. We have the cards all clean. The processor's all good to go. All of our components are in a good spot. So I think what the next step we're going to do here is get the case out and get that kind of all cleaned up as well. I believe that's our next logical step here. All right, so here we are, and we have the motherboard mounting metal back. We're going to go ahead and just clean off some of the dirt here, and I have some of the usual. I have a magic eraser, extra dual magic eraser, just a typical sponge for cleaning, and some water, and we have the alcohol and things like that. I mean, I don't like to do too much when it comes to this. I don't like using a bunch of soap and water and things like that if we don't have to, unless it was really, really bad. But yeah, let's clean off that there. That's coming off no problem. Our dust bunnies, you're not welcome here anymore. You've been evicted. All right, that seems to be pretty good. No worse for wear for sure for a system that presumably is around from 1998. It's pretty darn good. All right, just gonna put that aside, and we'll get the case up here to get that cleaned off as well. And so I'm just gonna take a look here to see if we can get this any cleaned up here. I'm gonna use the magic eraser just to see if there's any we can remove. Yeah, so there's some nicks in the paint here that I'm not going to be able to get off the case. I mean, that's just par for the course, unfortunately. Yeah, like I'm not painting the case right now. I'm just trying to get the main smudges and things like that off of it. Yeah, it's pretty good. I'll do the end as well, just to have it. And again, these are just going to sit for dry for a while before I start to reassemble the system here. So that's one side, and then the other panel. Let's get that as well. And again, I'm just using microfiber and water for now. I mean, if there's anything that was heavier, I mean, this case is pretty darn good condition. So, I mean, there's no need to start bringing out the heavy chemicals and start scrubbing and cleaning or putting it in a sink and using a scrub brush and all that. I mean, it seems to be pretty good shape. You have this line here that's actually etched into the paint. There's a bunch of scuff marks here. That seems to be coming out. The deeper ones are not, but yeah, the magic eraser seemed to take that off pretty good. That's my fingernail catches in that, so that's definitely cut into the paint. Up here we have a little bit of a scuff that came off just nicely. I'm telling you, those magic erasers. That's our case. And so on the back itself, I mean, there's not really dirt except for the bottom part here. Let's see if I can get in the frame here. So the bottom here has a little bit of dust, so we're just going to get that out of there. Where's there we go. This is just mainly, it's nice thing about these brushes that they cling on to the dirt and get it out of there. I'm leaving this sticker that's on there, like it says tech connection, phone number, PC connects. I believe that's what it's abbreviated for, dated 11th of January of 99. I imagine that's a warranty thing. It does say 2-year on the end of it. I imagine some sort of warranty. I'm just going to leave that on there for nostalgia of the system. I mean, it's all personal preference of what you decide to do with that, but I mean, I'm leaving it. Just going to leave it off. Or leave it on, sorry. All right, let's go ahead. I don't know if there's any right angle here for the camera. I'm trying to make sure that I get it in such a way that everybody can see the components, but again, it's because I'm using the overhead view that it's just not the same. Let's go ahead and just take this rag in here. I'm just going to clean out this kind of layer of dust that's inside here, And I mean, there's not a lot of dirt in here. There just isn't. So getting this kind of cleaned out is not too bad. And I gotta be careful of that the speaker. There's still wires attached to it. Yeah, I mean, it's overall, I mean, we're looking pretty good in here. We have all the dirt kind of cleaned out there. We have the, and we'll use the brush on this back part because that's where good. All right, that's looking pretty good. So now let's check the top out here. I'm just going to see if we can get that off with one of the alcohol wipes. Because generally I find that these alcohol wipes are really good at taking this off. Now, I have a scraper that I can use for glass on this. I have like a little scraper, but I'm trying to avoid that because I don't want to damage the case and the paint on it. And I find with these alcohol wipes, it can do, yeah, see, that's just coming off now. Okay, through the magic of editing, we were able to remove that sticker from the top, which is really awesome. Okay, so now I'm going to use the magic eraser just to, remove any of these blemishes that we have on here, because I find that this removes it quite well, as I mentioned earlier. Just to give it a good little scrub. There was not really any sort of dirt there. I mean, we do have a big dent here, and I imagine that was from, let's see if the camera will focus on that for me. Yeah, you can see the dent right here, little pinhole dent. I mean, there's nothing I could do about that. That was probably where it was thrown, or something was thrown on top of it. Unfortunately, it's just the way it is. Okay, so we'll do the same thing on the side here. I mean, the side looks pretty clean. A little mark right here. Magic eraser took a little fast work of that. That's awesome when I see that. Okay, that's good. And we'll do the other side as well. Yeah, I mean, this is cleaning up quite nicely with the magic eraser. There's just a lot of scuffs on it that we're trying to get out here. And so I'm just trying to rough it up a little bit just to kind of make sure we're getting everything out as we should. And yeah, I mean, that's looking pretty darn good now. Again, this case wasn't terrible. I mean, it's a shame that they just said, yeah, just take this to the dump. Let's get rid of it. I mean, goodness gracious, it's so good to have these older components and get them working, especially with what we found in it. So, all right, there we go. We got that all cleaned up. And now we'll put the case down and get ready for the reinstallation of the motherboard. Okay, here we are. We have our motherboard back mounting plate back in our hands, and we'll go ahead and get this beautifully cleaned motherboard back out. And I believe the way we had everything set up is we have the two standoffs here at the bottom. We have another standoff here in the corner. We'll get those lined up here. There we are. I believe those were the only standoffs, so we'll make sure that they clip in nicely. Again, no force required. They just clips in nicely like that. And then we'll get our 3 screws installed as well. There we are. And we have our motherboard successfully mounted to the plate. So let's go ahead and put in our CPU as well, just because we're already here, and it just makes sense to get that installed while the board is out. And so this just slides in like this. So again, no force, just popping it in like that and get it installed into the slot. There we go. There. She's in. Good. All right, we'll go ahead and just hook up the CPU fan as well once I find the header. There, we have the CPU fan installed now. Just a little clip in there, which is nice. So we have that. And we're going to go ahead and install our 1 stick of memory that we know works, just until we get to a point where we start to expand the system. So I'm just going to open that up and pop this in like so. Here we are. That went in nice and easily. All right, we have our brand new CR2032 battery here. It's going to pop that in there as well, like so. That's in there now. And we're all ready to throw this in the case. Okay, so we have the case here. I'm just going to go ahead and put it in the back here. It has little grooves that they slide into, like so. And this just drops down like that, where we can get it all ready to screw back into the case. We have our back installed again, which is wonderful. And since we're here, I'm just going to go ahead and slide the floppy drive in, just because we're at that stage. And I need to access this side here just to make sure we can put some screws in it. Let's just put the screw in here. There we go. Yeah, it wasn't threading on the other side, so I just want to get this lined up on the outside nicely, which is great. Now I'll pop in the CD-ROM drive now. If I am going to put the burner in, this is set to master, so that's good. So it's important that the your jumpers in the back here, let's get a good view here, is set to master, which it is. Now the other drive I will put as a slave. Alright, put that in there. Get some screws for that. Before I do that though, I'm just going to pop out the bezel in the front here so we can pop in our other drive. Now, I will be honest with you, I have not tested this drive. I'm in complete hopes that we're in a good spot. It is set to master, so I'm going to move that over to slave. I mean, I could be putting a much faster CD burner in here, probably less prone to error, but I'm doing this because I want to, hoping that the drive works. And we'll put the additional screws in here as well. Now I'm stealing from the other side, obviously, when I'm putting these in, but we'll go ahead and get some more screws when it comes to that. Now the case is starting to have a little more weight to it now. We'll pop that to make sure it just lines up with the front of the case and the other drive and all that good stuff. There we go. Okay. All right, keep those screws on in case we need them. So yeah, it's starting to look like a computer case, and it's quite heavy for what it is. All right, so the next step I think we're going to do is install that power supply into the case, the ATX power supply. I had used that for testing, and I think we're in a good spot to go ahead and use that because, again, it just worked fine when we used it. Yeah, I think we're in a good space. I'm just taking a look at it, but I think, yeah, we're looking pretty good with it. So let's just go ahead and use that for now, and let's make sure we line it up. Here we are. So let's go ahead and put this case in, or this power supply in. That's the way the holes line up. That's the way it's going to be. It doesn't have a fourth spot, so we'll get that in there. There we are. We have that in there as well. So now, I mean, that's in there pretty darn well. Okay. Now, that's set. That's our spaghetti wires that we have in the system. What I'd like to do first now, before we go any further, is to get an IDE cable and get that installed in the computer. So an IDE ribbon cable here. And so just making sure we have the white one would probably be IDE 0 and IDE 1 will probably be the bottom one. So I'm going to put the, oh wait, before we can continue, just realized we did not put the hard drive in. So let's get that bugger installed. I'm just going to mount it exactly where it was before because it seemed to be happy there, so we're not going to move it anywhere else. But that's nice and tight in there, as you can see. Okay, so that's in there now. Let's go ahead and pop in the IDE cable. This is for the CD-ROM drives, Well, I say CD-ROM drive and burner. Let's get that installed here as well. And let me just tilt that up a little bit. So the red goes towards the top, which is the power as well. So important that we line that up nicely. Actually, I'm sitting here thinking about this, and I think what we need to do is pop in, if this is going to be proper, pop in a CD audio cable. Let's see if I have one here. I mean, of course I have one. Brand new package. Let's go ahead and just take that out. I'll make sure it's done properly. We're going to pop a sound card in here. Now, the system did not have one. I don't know if you noticed that when we were going through the disassembly, but the computer did not have one, but we are going to use one. So this side here, go to the motherboard or the card, and we're just going to pop this in. Okay, we have that CD-ROM cable in there, so we'll use that later into the sound card. And now we can go ahead and use our nice ribbon cable here for the CD-ROM drive. So pop it in there. Again, you don't need to force this. This just goes in nice and easily. And the same thing with this. Keep that cable over there for a minute. I'll wrap that around the CPU later. And we'll pop that in there as well. This is for the CD burner. That's a slave. So we have our primary or secondary master, secondary slave. And we'll pop that into the motherboard as well. Before I do that, I'm just going to take these cables out of here so I have access to plugging them in. I just realized I did not plug in the ATX power to the motherboard prior to doing that. So through the magic of editing, I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay, we're back. So I have the ATX power supply plugged into the board now, which was of course located under that. So we have one of our Molex connectors here. We're just going to go ahead and plug them in to the two drives since we're here. And remember, we've already hooked up the CD audio cable to the primary CD-ROM drive. And we have our CD burner installed here as well on the daisy chain there, which is great. And yeah, okay, that's wonderful. We're getting there. Much closer than we were earlier, that's for sure. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is just, I'm just going to get this out of the way now. Let's go ahead and plug that in. The IDE cable to the motherboard. And this is being plugged into IDE 2, or IDE 1, I should say. Just double check to make sure I'm correct on that. Actually, IDE 2 is the white one, so I'm just going to go ahead and move it over to that. And IDE 1, which is the primary IDE, is right here. We'll keep that for the hard drive. All right, so we have that, which is wonderful. Now let's go ahead and get the floppy drive connected. This is the original cable that was in here. Let's go ahead and do the same. We'll use the same thing here. And we'll line that up and get this installed correctly. All right, we have that plugged in now. So we have the ribbon cable plugged in for the floppy drive. Now I'm just going to stuff that in here just to kind of, for in terms of cable management, out of the way. And we'll get this put in here as well. All right, there we are. Leave that in. And we may as well install the power for it as well. And that is right, not on that cable. We'll get that tucked in out of the way, just so it's not bugging us later. And then so we have this for our floppy. We have our floppy drive connected now. We have the power and the data cables connected for the CD-ROM drive and CD burner. Now the next step is, this is going to be spare, so I'm just going to tuck that in up top as well. Just get the cables out of the way. And you can see why. Okay, we got them out of the way. And before I go ahead and plug this in to that, I'm just going to get another IDE cable. Here's a new one for this, just because I have it. Brand new, fresh IDE cable for the hard drive. It deserves nothing but the finest. Okay, let's get this installed. Pop that into IDE 1, which is the primary one on this board. There we are. And I'm just going to put it right here. Here we are. We have the hard drive IDE cable installed, and then we have our Molex connector as well. And so, yeah, I was a little worried at the beginning if we were going to be able to get into where the RAM is, but yeah, I mean, I can still access that pretty easily, which is great because, I mean, ultimately we want to be able to install additional memory if needed. Okay, I think it's time for the video card. So let's put in the Matrox video card here, the AGP video card first. I'll get that popped in here. And again, I'm being very careful. There, that just slides in nicely into the socket now that everything is nice and clean. And we'll just get this all sorted out here. Put a nice screw in there. And the next thing we're going to do is install the 3DFX card in here as well. And I'm going to bump it up a notch here, actually. Just because I'm not going to bump it up right up against the Matrox card just because of heat dissipation and other reasons. But I wanted to free up a spot there for the sound card in case I go with a PCI sound card. I think I'm going to be going with an ISA one, but just in case. We have our drives installed. Boy, this is looking populated. So we have these cables now. I'm just going to go ahead and get those installed. This is for the reset switch, power switch, your LEDs, and things like that in the front of the case. So I'll go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so we're back, and I have all the header power indicators and all that good stuff plugged into the right ports. And again, the picture comes in really handy. I found in my tickle trunk a Sound Blaster Oz64 ISA sound card, copyright 1997. This system was built in 98. Figure this is a really good card to try out in this system. I don't have any Sound Blaster 16 cards, and the only other card that I can find readily available at the moment is the Sound Blaster Vibra 16, copyright 1996. Now, if we have any compatibility issues, we can certainly use that. But again, I figured what we'll do is pop this card in, and if we're in a good spot, I think we will be... I think we're in a good spot with this card. And we'll pop this card in as well. Okay, we've already deoxed everything, so that's good. And I've already cleaned this off camera, this particular card, just because I had to go through and find it. And so I just figured you guys have seen enough cleaning already, so I think we're good to go there. All right, we have the Sound Blaster card installed. Let's grab our cable here that we have for our CD-ROM drive. Just pop that in. There we go. Clips right in nicely. Look at that. Beautiful. Okay. I think we have a complete system now, everybody. We have our power supply installed. Every single component inside this computer. Zero dust in the system. It's all been wiped out, cleaned. We have our Creative Labs Sound Blaster Oz64 sound card, ISA. So with the compatibility for the DOS and all that good stuff. Then we have our 3DFX card. We have our Matrox card, 2D card. I haven't installed the pass-through in the back yet. You can see the cable right here. We have our hard drive, our floppy drive, our HP 7200 series CD burner. We have our 36 speed Acer CD-ROM drive. Pentium II 450 sitting down inside here, all nestled away. And then we have our ATX power supply by AOpen that we used to test the system originally. So if it isn't broke, don't fix it, as the expression goes. So we're going to use the exact same power supply, and it's nice that it mounts in there nicely. All right, let's go ahead and get the sides on this case. Let's get the bench all cleaned up, get a monitor set up, and see if all the work that we've done here is worth the restoration of this beautiful PC. And welcome back. We have our beautifully cleaned and restored Pentium II 450 tower. Just look at the beige, beautiful beige that's here, and there's zero yellowing to this case, which is just absolutely fantastic. And we still have the original Pentium II badge on the computer, which is really awesome. So I've left the side panel off, as you see my hand disappearing inside of it, just because I want to make sure that everything works. We have not tested this just yet. All I've done is hooked up the monitor, the keyboard, mouse, and everything to that. I've done the pass-through in the back and hooked up the monitor to the 3DFX card. So the last time we had this fired up, we got it working, was in the other video that we just did, the e-waste video, and it was running Windows XP. Go ahead and turn the monitor on. Actually, it's already lit up, which is fine. Hitting the power button for the very first time. Let's see what happens. CD burner's looking for it. Okay, so we have Pentium II 450. The RAM is counting up, no problem. Okay, good. I'm going to go with the CMOS setup for a moment because I want to double check what we have set up in here. Okay, CMOS set to auto for everything, which is great. Our floppy drive, which is fine. Keyboard's working fine, which is also a great bonus. So today's date is April 17th. And actually, let's do the year first because 2023, just so that it can select the right date. Okay, great. We have that saved. And let's do IDE auto detection. So detecting it, no problem. I mean, it's the hard drive there. So let's select 2. We would have it set to auto anyway. And I'm skipping the CD-ROM drives and all that stuff because it's just hard drive to save and exit. There we are. Let's reboot. So far, the lights are working fine. The hard drive light is solid. I've had problems with that before where maybe it shouldn't be solid, but we'll see if it starts flickering. Oh, no, it went out. That's good. Power is good. Reset button's good. Power's on. Let's skip the memory test and see what happens. Floppy drive seeking. Shouldn't be any primary slave, but it should. Exactly. There we go. We have our both CD-ROM drives in this. This is first boot up. So are we getting lucky on this? Windows XP. Windows XP is popping up. The video did that before, and I'm not sure why. If you know why, tell me in the comments. But it does come back once the operating system loads. So I just don't understand why it's doing that, and it looks fine. So anyway, but like I said, if you know why it does that little misconfiguration there, let me know, distortion. Although otherwise, we're just going to work together on this and get it Windows 98 installed or all the drivers configured for it properly. But just listen to that hard drive just go. I love it. And we have the device manager loading up. Okay, yeah, we have lots of great stuff now. All right, so let's go to the top there. We have our disk drives where we have our Quantum Fireball, 12.7 hard drive, 12.7 gig. Our display adapters, Matrox Millennium. We do have the other video card, multimedia video controller that's right here, just because we don't have the drivers installed for the 3DFX card, which we'll do together at another time. We have our TAPI CD-ROM drive, our 36B, plus we have our HB CD writer installed, which is wonderful. And again, like I said, I just picked this up the other day at the thrift store, and it was my original childhood one that I had, so it's great to see that in action and detecting it. Again, we haven't tested the drives yet, but so far it's looking good. We have our controllers, mice, monitors. I mean, that's all standard stuff. And then so we have all of our audio drivers, which is the AUS64 card. I'm not going to bother installing them now just because we are going to be installing the new operating system on this. Okay, so I think this was a very successful video. I think everybody, I mean, we took the whole computer apart and yeah, just completely took the computer apart, cleaned every single component, cleaned the case, cleaned all the different stuff, and just look at it. It looks great. And this was an e-waste. This was thrown to the garbage, and now we have a fully working system. I mean, we did test this in the video before, but we wanted to make sure that we got everything cleaned up. So I think the next logical step for this computer is to upgrade the memory in the system and maybe to 512 megabytes of RAM. Now, I don't know if we decide to go with Windows 98 or Millennium Edition, what the optimal RAM is for that. Maybe it's too much memory. That's it for today's video, looking at this beautiful piece of restored e-waste, this beautiful Pentium II 450 computer. On that note, if you've liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up. I know we went rather long, but again, it needed to be done to be able to do a full restoration on this computer. We've added in a couple of extra things as well, which I think just looks absolutely stunning in this computer. I love the look of the case. So again, if you like this, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't, please subscribe. It really helps me out, helps me be able to create this new content for everybody. Hit the notification button. You'll be notified the minute I release a new video. Hopefully the quality is much better this time, now that I corrected the previous issue in the last video. And thanks again for all your support. It means the world to me. And again, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for spending the time with me. And we will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.